Blog Talk Radio.
Hey, you are now tuned in to 110 Sports Talk. I go by the name Lynn Knapp. Hey,
it's the best.
one and two the competition, no competition. You don't believe it, turn us up. Sit back and listen. We bringing you the stats, all the breaking news and facts. Want the latest on the biggest trade? Well, this is where it's at. We don't talk it, boy, we live it. Got that all around coverage. From track and field, you name a field, we got it all covered. No diss to Derrick Rose, but we don't talk that bull. Just wait till he get healthy, better watch out for them bulls. Slide over the hockey, shout out to the Kings. Salute to LeBron James, y'all both got y'all rings. Looking for the real, you tune into the best. The sportologist and Mr. TJ Sports is up next.
I want to welcome everybody to the 110 Nation Sports Show. I am your host, Mr. TJ Sports. You can follow me at TJ Sports 1. You can follow the 110 Nation at 110 Nation. Glad to be here on this Tuesday. Yes, Tuesday night. The number one night for the 110 Nation Sports Show and the 110 Nation Sports Radio Network, period. Very, very excited about the night as we do our best to bring you the best we can every single night, but Tuesday night in more specific because everybody comes out of the woodworks and we try. I got to first apologize about last night at about 10 o'clock. BTR cut off. I'd seen a warning throughout the show, and a lot of times when there's errors and things going wrong on BTR's end, they try to send you messages and some pop-ups to let you know. But we had been on for quite a bit of time with that notification on my screen, so I was assuming we were the one of the lucky people that had got in and we were good to go. We were in the last question. Our guest was answering his last question. We had Max Pappas on last night, and that's when it cut off, and it would not let anybody back on. It would not let me call back in. It said I was already on the show and everything else. So we do apologize. It was, once again, not one of our errors. BTR over the last, year, maybe 2 years, we've only had a couple incidences where we could not do a show. So the track record as of late has been pretty good. So I'm not going to go into this big rant about Blog Talk. It was kind of aggravating because we did have the host of Racing with Big Sweat, Steve Billmeyer, ready to come in. He was ready to talk some NASCAR. He was ready to talk some Michigan, Mid-Ohio. We had Patrick Taylor lined up to follow that. We was going to talk week one preseason. So, we still had another half of a show to plot on and get into. And here we were cut short, and we couldn't reschedule the show. You can only schedule one show, regardless if you use the full time that your plan allows, or if you can't break it. In other words, I couldn't do 2 1-hour shows, and which I think really stings. I think if I pay for 2 hours a day, I should be able to break it up 4 30-minute shows, 2 30s and an hour. However I want to break it up is how I feel about it. I'm paying for it. But they don't allow that, and it's discouraging in one aspect because we're right on the verge of going to a 3-hour show. We've sat and we've had some small conversations. It's been brought up to a couple of the staff members. It's been brought up to Shorty, and it's something that we're strongly considering, especially with all the guests that we have lined up for you guys and all the co-hosts and experts that we have come on to talk different sports. It's a real big consideration. We try to leave the first hour open for guests. It leaves us the second hour to bring on kind of our experts of the sports, and then it'll leave me a third hour to kind of be able to talk about sports in general and hit the hot topics. And, on days like today where we got a guest and 2 experts lined up, that leaves me the first 30 minutes to wrap up anything I want to talk sports-wise, and that's it. So, that's the only discouraging part about what happened yesterday, other than we missed the second half of the show. Like I said, I don't want to put down Blog Talk Radio because we've not had a lot of issues with them. So, we're thankful for that. But at the same time, there is part of us discouraging because you go from just to add 1 hour onto the plan, your plan more than doubles in price. So it's a pretty big jump up from what we're paying for a 2-hour segment to get a 3-hour segment that you still can't break up. So, it would be nice to be able to break that up because, like I said, you could have multiple shows throughout the day. So, I could have a morning, someone have a morning show, we have an afternoon show, and a night show or something. On different nights of the week or different days, or, we could still use a 2-hour show and still someone have a show, or, all that kind of stuff. But, so that's, the only discouraging part. But I want to thank Max Pappas. I did get a text after, or a tweet after the show. We are going to get him to return sometime down the road. He's not the first time he's been on the show, and we're very thankful for his time and everything. So very, very thankful for that. And I want to thank Reese Nobles, our NASCAR rider. He came on the show last night and was hanging out and, had the opportunity to talk to Max as well. Looking forward to having his new show on Friday nights, Fly Ball Fridays, 10:30 p.m. We're just going to be talking Major League Baseball, so excited about that. Don't forget Thursday Night Racing with Big Sweat. Kicks off at 9 o'clock and goes anywhere from 10 to 11 o'clock. Depends on how many different racers we get on the show. We usually get at least 2 or 3. Sometimes it gets to be more than that. We try to hit on at the track updates and everything else. So, you never know how long it's going to go. And so make sure you guys check that out. But tonight, everything going on and everything that, I get to wrap this up in a nutshell. Tuesday night, the night to be here. And we definitely do not want to disappoint. We got Xfinity Series driver Dylan Lumpton joining us tonight. Starting to put his name on a couple people's watch list. Definitely turning heads, definitely doing things on the track. Finished well in Mid-Ohio. And we get the opportunity to sit down and get to know Dylan a little bit better and get to talk to him about this season and life and everything in between. So excited about having him. We're going to be following that with Patrick Taylor, our NFL expert. Looking forward to finally be able to have a week 1 talk. I know he wants to compare number 1 and number 2 pick. We got some Eli Manning talk that we want to get into, just a lot of different things in the NFL. And then, of course, at 10:30, we got our NHL expert Izzo joining us. We're going to be, I want to say the Central Division is I keep on saying Atlantic for some reason, but the Central Division is we're going to jump into that tonight. And as he makes his way around the NHL, and the last 2 weeks, he talked about the teams out east. So excited about getting schooled tonight on the NHL. So definitely going to keep that in mind, and definitely excited about that. If you've not checked out the new blog sites, one, you would have known that Danica was going to have her press conference today at 11 o'clock to announce Nature's Bread as her new sponsor, and the fact that she, earlier that day, yesterday, re-signed with Stewart Haas Racing. But if you've not checked out the site, go over to www.110nationsports.com for our latest articles. And then also for the up-to-date stuff going on in the company, all you got to do is go over to the110nation.com. So you guys check that out. Check us out on Facebook. You can check out my fan page, Mr. CJ Sports. You can check out the sports side and the science side of the house, 110 Nation Sports, and the radio side and the guest side of the house, 110 Nation Sports Radio. So make sure you guys check that out and keep up with everything going on here at the 110 Nation. I never to have to go into the 2015 season talking about this. And it's really ridiculous. That a majority of our preseason talk is still going to end. Well, hey, we got a couple other headliners that are trying to bump this topic, but it is still the most talked about topic. It is still the hottest topic, and it's really unfortunate, especially with the other interesting topics that are going on. Such we're going to talk a little bit later on about Eli Manning and wanting to be highest paid quarterback and the highest paid player. LaShawn McCoy strains hamstring. We're trying to keep updated on that. But Brady Goodell still unresolved. And we're not even on the same continent on how close they're even at this point. Goodell, is all in for Brady taking the blame and admitting, and Brady is all in on I am innocent and you have no way to prove otherwise. And it's sad. It is really sad. New England quarterback Tom Brady and NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell met Tuesday to discuss settling the Deflategate legal case, but were unsuccessful. Two people familiar with the case told the Associated Press the failure to strike a deal after about 4 hours of talks means a Wednesday hearing will proceed as scheduled. And it's already been reported a few times that Brady is not going to miss another practice, that it is not mandatory for either one of them to show up. And so far it's been reported that Brady has no plans of showing up to his proceedings, that he's pretty much missed the practice he's going to miss, and, he has got to prep as if he is going to be playing week 1. And, obviously Roger Goodell has nothing better to do. I would just love to be able to be the one to be able to sit in that courtroom or the litigation room, wherever they're sitting at right now, and listening to this conversation. I mean, how interesting can this conversation? I mean, after 4 hours, I obviously it'd be boring, but at first, I think it would be all I could do to not chuckle or not laugh. I mean, how does this go? Brady says you have no proof. You're going on speculation. You have absolutely positively nothing that ties me to the air pressure in these balls. And Goodell's only rebuttal is you smashed your cell phone. I mean, I couldn't keep a serious face doing this. Sitting in the same room, I just can't see this being a two-way argument because Goodell is sitting with nothing at this point. A phone that he can't recover nothing off of, even if he wanted to, or even if he could. And two butthurt teams that point fingers at the New England Patriots because, once again, the Patriots beat them in the playoffs, and really nothing else to go off of. I mean, what could there possibly be to talk about for 4 hours? And how could someone not kind of chuckle when Roger Goodell and the NFL is trying to present their case, trying to prove a point when they have no evidence? It's all speculation. I think what I give the NFL, mad kudos. You got brass balls. I mean, you're willing to stick this out all the way through just to give somebody the blame for what apparently is a really big, deep group of quarterbacks that do this or have done this. and trying to prove a point without any actual evidence, just trying to carry your weight. I mean, there's no other explanation to this. I mean, I'm not even a Brady fan. Don't sit here and think that I am a Brady fan and a Patriots fan, and I just don't want to get into the whole depressing life of being a Cleveland Browns fan and the quarterback situation going on there, and the fact that the Browns are seriously considering giving Ray Rice another opportunity to play football. I mean, it doesn't get much more depressing than this, but I don't want you to think that for any second that I'm a Brady fan, but I'm also a fan that you can't punish a player. You can't speculate. You can't do any of these things without any. I mean, there's no proof. And that's the biggest part that trips me up is the NFL thinks that they are that big, that they are that powerful, that they're willing to take this to the court system and are willing to take it to courts and waste money on something that I just can't see a court system not overturning. I mean, without any proof, I just don't see it happening. Like I said, I give the NFL, I mean, you got kahunas. You think you're larger than life, and I'll give you that. You are definitely trying to play that role. But sadly enough, we got some other interesting topics, but everything is going to continuously be overshadowed. Oh, Deflategate, depending on how long the NFL sticks it out, and I don't know if they're honestly hoping that Brady would just cave in and admit to something that he may or may not have done. But I don't know. Buffalo Bills running back LaShawn McCoy hurt his left hamstring during a joint practice with the Cleveland Browns, and is having tests to determine the extent of his injury. Coach Rex Ryan said Tuesday night that trainers informed him the hamstring is intact and has not been pulled off the bone, which is described as a real positive. McCoy pulled up short and started limping during a 7-on-7 drills about an hour into practice. He walked the sideline holding the back of his leg and then sat on the turf where he was attended to by numerous trainers. You know, I know I don't have a PhD. I know I don't have an MD or any kind of, there's no kind of D in my name, period. At all. And any name that I sign my name to. For a league that went super soft a handful of years ago, or 4 years ago, or whatever it was, when they did the CBA, so 3 years ago, and made practices go soft and made these teams go easy on those players, it just seems that the injuries have just gone up. There's a reason why I lobby for two preseason games, and either just leaving the 16 regular season games or upping it to 18, which I would prefer the 18 regular season games. Injuries and the waste of time. After 2 preseason games, and all the OTAs and all the 7-on-7s and all the combined scrimmages, you have a pretty good idea who's going to make this team and who's not going to make this team. There's not too many people in week 3 or week 4 of the preseason, 3rd or 4th string, that is going against other 3rd or 4th string players, going to play at a level that a coach is going to say, you know what, this guy didn't play quite as good against the 1st string, but this 3rd string guy, you know, he smacked that 4th string guy around a little bit. I like that. So we're going to take the 1st stringer, even though he outplayed the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th string, but because he was kind of sluggish against, you know, their starters there at first couple games, getting the cobwebs out. We're going to go with that 3rd string guy that, you know, beat somebody that was not better than him. And definitely my 3rd string guy is nowhere to the caliber that my 1st string is, but that's what our plan is going to be. I am sure that was said by no coach ever. Our starters and the majority of our players that we're going to actually see on the field in 16 preseason quarters, they maybe play 2 complete quarters, and that's it. Pushing it. I may give you a third. First preseason game, I think we might make a series, maybe 2 series at most. The second game, you might get a whole quarter, maybe to half, but I doubt it. The third, you're going to play a series or maybe 2 series. 4th preseason game, your starters are either not going to play or they might play a couple downs of a series, and they're done. We don't get a true reading of anybody. We don't get a true assessment on really your starters, because by the time their body's starting to really get loosened up and you really get into the full game, you're getting pulled out. What makes a difference what a 2nd string could do against a 2nd string or a 3rd string or a 4th string? What makes a difference in the 3rd string? Because there's a reason why he's a 3rd string, and how do you evaluate someone's garbage against someone else's garbage? Injuries. Plethora of injuries, once again. And we're only on week 1. Can you imagine what week 2? Then week 3. Then week 4. What the injury situation is going to be. Some of it got to do with the lack of contact that these players are getting during their practices. Some of it's got to do with you got some players out there that are playing over aggressively because they are fighting for a spot. So you got some players out there that just don't have the NFL knowledge and really have no business being out there and are playing carelessly. And you got some injuries that just happen. It's just a way of life. Shorten the preseason, you shorten the possibilities of a bunch of injuries before you even get to the regular season. I have never been a fan of preseason. I watched very minimal. I have caught highlights. Only game I really caught was the Hall of Fame game, and that was 2 teams that, one team that I despised with every fiber of my body, being a Cleveland Browns fan, speaking of the Steelers, and then you got the other team that I have all, my opinion is as long as they have Teddy Bridgewater, they'll be the Minnesota Vikings, and that's it. Same Minnesota Vikings that have been really non-existent in the NFC North for a while now. I don't think I think the only time I can remember any real excitement of the Minnesota Vikings for the longest time, dating back to I guess when you had Chris Carter and Randy Moss on the team, was the years that Brett Favre played there. And that's really the only time I don't take anything away from Adrian Peterson on the field. Probably one of the best running backs in the league right now, and it's probably been for a couple of years now. There's really nothing else on that team that excites me, and Teddy Bridgewater being your quarterback just lets me know that Minnesota Vikings are not going to win the Super Bowl anytime soon. But preseasons, it's for sports that I love. It may not be my number one sport. I still hold NASCAR closer to my heart. But for it being right there, tied with number one, if not right behind NASCAR, it bothers me that I feel that I got to pull my own teeth, to sit there and suffer through watching preseason. There's, to me, it's like watching the Pro Bowl or watching a basketball all-star game. There is no point, purpose. And obviously, Sean McCoy's injury is during practice in 7-on-7, and it's kind of a special, incident. I'm not gonna say special. I don't know what you want to call it. Just an isolated incident. There you go. Yeah, I guess that's more the word I'm looking for. But I really think that we're getting closer and closer to the day where we're going to only have a couple preseason games, and in a financial standpoint, it makes more sense. It makes more sense to put a product out there that you're going to sell out your seats, give the fans what they're paying for. There's no sense of paying that kind of money for a preseason game, and then not that kind of money you should be getting you should be getting 100% product. And what the advertisers are paying for, what the TV production is paying for, and everybody that's involved, we should be doing away with a bunch of this garbage and getting out there, getting the business. Let's make the season more competitive. Let's make the games mean more. And we talk about what they need to do to the Pro Bowl to make it, a point behind it as well, if we had the time. But we ain't got the time to do that tonight because one of our three guests that are joining us tonight, Dylan Lupton, he is in the studio. When she sent me over the list of who we had coming on this week, and I had the opportunity to sit down and really kind of not get to know Dylan, but kind of get to know Dylan by looking at a screen. I got more and more excited knowing that we were going to have this young, talented driver, athlete come on the show. And so, I've had the opportunity to sit here for a few hours before the show tonight and kind of piece together what questions that I would think that more of the audience would want to hear. And I kind of do that because, Miss Lee had the chance last weekend to go to Mid-Ohio, and she had the chance to sit down with Ben Rhodes. And, she was asking me, what kind of questions and what things that, I would ask. And, I told her, ask what you want to know. They get answered the same questions 100 times. And I know some of these questions he's answered on 20,000 shows and 20,000 different reporters. But I try to throw in some questions that I would want to know, that the average fan, the average, Xfinity Series diehard fan would want to know and not, necessarily get the opportunity to sit down and talk to Dylan. And so I try to throw some of those in there tonight. So it was kind of a different thing for me to kind of, sit here and do this tonight. And I try to put a lot of thought into it. And so I hope that I do everybody justice tonight, because I thought that I puzzled some good pieces here, some good questions together tonight, and try to make Dylan feel at home and comfortable with it. I know these guys do it a million times, but it's nice to just feel that you're having a conversation instead of you're being drilled, questioned, and like you're back in school or something. So with without any further delay here, I want to go ahead and get Dylan on the show. Dylan, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Just got done with the gym and had a good dinner, so I'm doing great right now.
That's always great to hear. Before we jump into this, I definitely want to thank you. I know you're a busy guy, and there's a lot of things that you need to be doing, could be doing, but you give us an opportunity tonight, so I want to thank you. And also, before I jump into this, like I do with all our guests, I want to give you an opportunity to plug anything you want to plug. So if it be advertiser or sponsors, if it's social media, your website for your team, or for yourself, anything you want to plug, I want to give an opportunity to get that out there. That way the fans get an opportunity to know where to find you, follow you, like you, anything else. That way they get to know you better, and we get to keep up with you throughout the rest of the season.
Alrighty, yeah. First off, I want to say thank you for having me on the show. I'm really excited to be able to talk to you. And then for everyone out there listening, they can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Lupton Dylan, or I have a Facebook page, Dylan Lupton Racing, that's handled by some of my PR. And then I want to say a big shout-out to the whole Townley family for letting me race their car this year in the Xfinity Series. I have to thank everyone over at Affinia Motorsports and the whole Zaxby's Corporation for giving me this huge opportunity.
You know, it was crazy because before the show, I tried to hit every angle. I tried to get up with everybody on social media and kind of see what kind of person they are. And, you know, I hit the race team sites. I try to do, a bunch of different things to try to, ask different things or just get to know them a little bit differently. And I was really surprised when I put you up on Facebook. I had no idea that we had already been friends, and I have no idea. I was talking to Miss Lee. I was like, I had no idea. I don't even know when we became friends, how we became friends. And I was really shocked. So, it was one of those things that I normally try to friend everybody once I become, we get booked on the show. That way I could keep up and help share everything everybody's doing. But it just, it kind of shocked me that we was already friends, so I thought that was really cool. Looking over what I looked over, I came with a list of things that I was dying to know. And right off the gates, at what age did you actually get into the sports? And at what age did you really realize this was you? This is what you was meant to do. You knew that you was going to be successful behind whatever wheel that you got behind.
Yeah, growing up, I thought I was meant to be on two wheels. I thought, racing dirt bikes was the path I wanted to go, but obviously from all the hospital trips I took, that was definitely not the road that was going to be a successful one. That was going to just keep on taking me to the hospital. So I got in a go-kart when I turned 13 years old, which seems, pretty young, but a lot of these guys I'm racing against, they've been in, go-karts and race cars since they were 5 years old, so I was kind of a late bloomer. And then I got in a stock car when I turned 16 years old. I raced down in Southern California for 2 years in late models, and nothing really got serious until I moved into the K&N Pro Series. In 2013, I ran my first full year, and once I won the Rookie of the Year title, that's kind of when I figured out, hey, maybe this is a career path for me. And after being named a member of the NASCAR Next program, it kind of gave me the confidence where I needed to take my racing and how I could make this a career. So it's probably around 18, 19 years old when I knew that I was meant to be a race car driver.
Now, a lot of kids growing up, they fantasize out in the backyard that they're in the bottom of the ninth, two outs, bases loaded, 2 strikes, and they hit that home run, or they're in the Super Bowl and they throw that game-winning touchdown, and they fantasize about being in those sports and want to play those sports. What made you decide that you wanted to be in racing? That's not traditionally everybody's, at a young age, every kid's dream. A lot of times it's firefighter, doctor, this, that, and the other, but it's football player or basketball player. What made you decide racing?
Let's see. When I was a kid, I played all kinds of different sports: soccer, lacrosse, baseball. But nothing really excited me like racing did. I remember going to all the dirt bike races when I was a little kid, going to Supercross and motocross, watching all my favorite pros ride, and it just seemed that I loved racing. My dad would take me to NASCAR races when I was about 6 years old, and even though I didn't really have a desire at that age to get in a race car, I knew that I was really, I just loved racing. I loved the whole aspect of, there's 43 guys out there and there's only one winner. So the competition aspect of racing really, really interested me. So once I got an opportunity to get in a race car, I was beyond excited. And my dad, he grew up racing dirt bikes, and he would take clients out to Sonoma Raceway and entertain them for a day, and they'd race go-karts. And after doing that a few times, he knew that he needed to get me in a go-kart, and I don't think he really understood how that would change my path in life, where all of a sudden I'm a professional driver, but I'm sure happy that he put me in a go-kart when I was that age.
I bet so. I've seen that, and you talked about the dirt bikes, the go-karts, you've been at late models, Kane Pro Series, and now in the Xfinity Series. As you've moved up, which one has been the hardest one to learn to drive or adjust to as you moved up, and which one of the vehicles or whatever machinery you throw the dirt bike in as well has felt the most natural to you?
It seems like every time I get in a new series, I'm always going up in series, so the competition and the race cars get harder to drive.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to say the hardest was transitioning from go-karts to a stock car just because they are so different. But once I got in a race car, it seemed like I was able to progress at quite a fast pace. And I'd say it's almost like a lack of experience from racing. I've only raced for 6 years in race cars, and in those 6 years I've driven 5 or 6 different race cars, so I haven't been able to get the chance to get used to just one race car. So I almost forced myself to learn how to adapt quickly to whichever vehicle I'm driving. It seemed like in the 2 years I raced K&N Pro Series, the first half of the year was a little bit of a struggle getting used to the race car, but then the last year and a half in that series, we were up in the front every race, contending for wins. And it seems like the Xfinity season has started off kind of the same, where I struggled the first 2 or 3 races, then we had a little bit of bad luck, but these last 2 races have really been better. So I'd say that these cars that I'm in now really suit my driving style.
Mm-hmm.
And these Xfinity cars, I'm able to really hang them out sideways, and I think that for me, it fits my driving style.
Now, we've seen you get promoted or advance into the next series multiple times. How tough is it? How difficult is it to get that opportunity to move up? I mean, how cutthroat is the competition? I mean, we're looking at thousands and thousands of race car drivers across the United States, and the ultimate goal is be one of the 43 out there on Sunday afternoon. This is not like football where there's 53 players on each roster amongst 32 teams. There's only 43 Sprint Cup drivers. How difficult is it to get in that spotlight and get moved up, and how difficult or how serious is the competition amongst you guys?
Yeah, NASCAR, I would have to say, is one of the most competitive sports out there. Like you said, there's 43 drivers in the world that drive in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at a time, and our careers are quite long for the successful drivers. You could drive all the way up till your early 50s or so. So it's not like there's an open seat in the sport where all these young drivers can fill. So it's really hard to get in the spotlight and get some attention drawn to yourself. However, being in the NASCAR Next program, I've really been able to put my name on everybody's radar as one of the up-and-coming drivers, just like drivers in the past in the NASCAR Next. It really shows that this program is working. You have drivers Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Dylan Kwasniewski, Darrell Wallace, who have come through the NASCAR Next program and have driven in the National Series. So being in the NASCAR Next program has really helped my career to continue to move up the ladder of NASCAR.
In 2011, you were ranked 17th in the nation in NASCAR's National Top 500 Driver Standings. 2012, you were invited to the Denny Hamlin Charity Foundation race. 2013, you were the Sunoco Rookie of the Year in the Caden Pro Series. 2014, you finished second in the points, and now in 2015, you're in the Xfinity Series. Out of all of those great accomplishments milestones you've reached so far, which one has meant the most to you, and why does it mean that much more to you than anything else you've accomplished so far?
That's a tough one. It really is tough. It seems like each year I'm getting better as a driver. I'm accomplishing more. I'd love to be winning championships. I was close in 2014, and that was tough. Ending the season so close to winning the championship is coming up a little bit close. But I'd have to say just being named in the NASCAR Next class, and that's probably one of the biggest accomplishments I've had in my career, because there's a handful of media, employees in NASCAR, drivers in the sport that vote on who should be in the class. So being voted in for 2 years in a row, that's my biggest accomplishment, just knowing that all the work that I'm doing on track is getting recognized by the top people in the sport.
How many times have you pinched yourself and make sure this is not all a dream? I mean, you're basically one step, and I know it's a big step to be part of that 43 car field on Sunday afternoons, but you're about one step away from reaching that goal. How many times have you pinched yourself and made sure that this is real, this is not a dream for you?
Well, if this is a dream, then I don't want to wake up from it, because right now I'm loving it. So I am extremely blessed and grateful for this opportunity that I have, and I'm just trying to go out every weekend that I race and race like it's my last one, because to be honest, I don't know what the future holds for me, but I'm going out there and I'm going to drive the car to the best of my abilities and leave it out all on the track.
How would you describe the 2015 season so far, and what goals did you have going into the year? I know, a lot of new drivers, just finishing races or finishing so far, in the points or having topped this finish. What was kind of some of the goals for you this year?
Yeah, I really wanted to get a top 10 finish, which I was able to accomplish this last weekend at Mid-Ohio, so I checked that one off the bucket list. But my other goals were just to be consistent. It seems like the results have been almost consistent, but they haven't been where I wanted them to be. The first 5 races, we struggled a little bit on speed. And I think a big part of that was just me and my crew chief trying to learn each other. And Mike Ford is great, but it's a learning curve for both of us, me being in a new car and him having a new driver, and he has to find out what I like in the race car. So it's taken a little bit of time for me and him to learn each other and what I need to tell him to make the race car drive better, and for him what kind of setup he needs to put in it for me. So in Iowa, I think we showed great speed. Unfortunately, we went a lap down early because of a mishap in qualifying. But we drove all the way up into the top 10, even though we were a lap down. And we finally got our lap back just a little bit too late. So the result wasn't what it should have been. However, we showed great speed, and we showed really good speed in Mid-Ohio, and we were able to get the result that we were looking for. So I think even though the season started off a little bit rocky. Right now we're starting to find our stride, and we're getting very, very fast.
Now, you brought up Mid-Ohio, and I saw that you finished ninth, and I know that you have go-karting experience in as part of your resume there. Are you partial to road courses? Do they feel a little bit more natural to you than the oval tracks, or is there really a difference to you?
I love road course racing. It's really it's quite fun for me, and I think that racing go-karts for 3 years, it's given me the knowledge of just how a track works, how you should attack a track, how you should visualize a race track. So when I go to the NASCAR Xfinity Series, I'm able to go out to Mid-Ohio like I did this weekend and learn the track in the first 5 minutes, first 5 laps of practice, and find where I need to be on the racetrack. And I think racing go-karts has helped me quite a bit, even though, those are 300-pound go-karts and these are 10 times what those weigh. Go-karting has helped me.
Miss Lee sent me a message. She wants to know, are there any plans for 2016 yet for you?
We're working on it right now. Nothing set in stone, but we're working on finding a sponsor and running full-time in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. NASCAR Truck Series might be an option. However, it just depends on what we could find funding-wise. So we're just working really hard every day right now to nail down that full-time sponsor to go racing.
Now, I want to switch gears real quick for a few questions, and then we'll finish up with a few more racing questions. I seen when I was researching that you and your lady friend have been together for a little over 3 years, which I congratulate you, because there's not a lot of relationships these days that last that long. But how difficult is it to maintain a relationship with everything you guys have going on, with the races, with the traveling, with the sponsors, the sponsor appearances you got to make? I mean, how strenuous is that on a relationship, and is she involved with your racing career at all?
Yeah, it really is hard. I'm out here in North Carolina going to school at UNC Charlotte full time, and then I'm racing on the weekends, and she's back in California where she's going to school. So it makes it tough. However, the racing makes it a lot easier because that gives her a reason to come out and see me. So we're able to see each other at the racetrack quite often. But it is tough, and we have to make sacrifices. And, I was lucky to find a girl that was able to make those sacrifices for me. So I couldn't thank her enough for all that she does. And she's very, very supportive of my racing. So she comes out to the races quite often, and if not, she's always watching it on TV. But other than that, it is a little tough.
I can imagine, and I applaud all the girlfriends and I guess I say boyfriends. There's so many ladies in the driving as well that it's got to be tough. Not only the wait time and the travel and everything like that, but to have to sit there and watch your other at the speeds and knowing what could happen. That's almost like, to me, almost being like a cop's significant other. You just don't know that could be your last day, and to be sitting there and having to watch that lap after lap, I know that's got to be hard for them. With everything you do have going on, though, with the testing, the practicing, the qualifying, everything, kind of the same scenario, do you have an opportunity to have much of a personal life? And what do you do as a person outside of the racing that kind of takes you away from everything? It would be take a long jog and blast out some kind of music, or you got a spot you go that, you kind of get to block the world and kind of clear your mind and kind of recharge your batteries. Do you have, one of those kind of things?
Yeah, I think it's good to, separate your racing life from your personal life. That's why when I moved out here to North Carolina, I decided to stay near school, which even though I'm a full-time student, I don't have to be near school. However, I wanted to surround myself around friends that aren't involved with racing so that I almost have not an escape, but after a long race week, and the last thing I want to do is go home to my roommate that me and him just accidentally crashed each other on the racetrack. So I have a group of friends that I live with that aren't involved with racing, but they're all huge supporters of it. And then just on the weekends that I'm not racing, we'll take the boat out to Lake Norman, or we'll just hang out and just kind of stay away from all the drama that is sometimes in NASCAR. So there's quite a bit of drama, and especially in the Mooresville area, kind of try to stay away from that area a little bit just to get a little bit of an escape.
And there's always a little bit of drama. Regan Smith kind of ruffled some feathers as well this week. So, and I meant to ask you in the road course, there's been a lot of conversation, and it's becoming a hotter and hotter topic in the Sprint Cup Series. But with you working your way up to be in the Sprint Cup Series, would you like to see a road course added to the chase?
I don't think I'd like to see one. I'd like to see probably 4 or 5 extra ones added in. These road course races are so fun, and they lead to great racing. Some people say, "Oh, well, they lead to crashes," but you get that everywhere. I think this road course racing is very exciting, especially for all the fans watching on TV. And if you really look at how a race breaks down, the fast guys that are at ovals, they're still going to be fast on road courses. You'll have a few road course guys come in and they'll be fast, but for the most part, everyone's going to be where they usually are, no matter where they're at. So I'd love to see a handful more road courses added to the schedule.
As Lee said, right on, brother. Love the road courses. Jumping into the Xfinity Series, now you're going to be around a lot more high-profile drivers, and not taking anything away from the lower series, the KM Pro or any other series you've been in, but now you're with the likes, and you're around the Dale Juniors and around everybody, both series, because a lot of the weekends you guys are out there together. With you being young and kind of being new to the scene, was it a nervous transaction, and were you nervous around some of these guys, or did it come natural? You just kind of jumped in and talked to the other drivers. How did you approach that, kind of being new to the new kid on the block?
Can be a little bit intimidating, I'd have to say. Like when you're the first race that you go to and you're sitting in a driver's meeting and you have Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski sitting next to you, it's like, these guys, they've made it. These guys could walk away from the sport right now and they'd be known as, some of the greatest race car drivers that have ever lived. And now I get to sit in between them, and I'm going out and I'm going to race them in, the next hour or so. And it was pretty crazy thinking about that. But, everything that I've done in my racing career has led me to this level. And I believe that I should be racing full time in this series. So when I go out there on the track, I leave nothing on the table. It doesn't matter if I'm, door to door with the best guy in the sport or door to door with a 25th place driver. I treat everyone the same, and I learn as much as I can, and just trying to get the best results I can to attract sponsors and get that full time ride.
Now, you mentioned earlier about you could drive into your 50s. You better not tell Morgan Shepherd that, because he's long past that. But a couple quick questions real quick, and I'm going to get you out of here. One, was there a driver out there that when you met them in real life, you've seen the exact opposite of what you thought it was going to be like? You got some of those drivers out there, you just think, God, I bet you this guy is a dick in real life. Or, he might be this in real life, but when you met him, you just were blown away by how different you perceived that driver to be.
Absolutely. Mine was Kyle Busch. He has a little bit of bad press sometimes around about him, but so I kind of went in there thinking, man, I hope this guy isn't like what they say he is, and he was the nicest guy I've ever met. we were talking to him about possibly running a few truck races a few years back, and yeah, he was just the nicest guy. And I remember going to Chicago a few months ago, and or it was last year. It was 1 year ago in Chicago, and he came up to me and hey, how's it going, Dylan? And just knowing that he remembered my name was pretty crazy to me at that moment. That someone, such high of a caliber of driver that he is, he'd be able to remember someone who was just in the K&N Press Series at the time. So I'd have to say Kyle Busch pretty much prized me, but in a good way.
Now, I don't want you to throw one of the races unless it truly is the answer that is left on your schedule this year, because that obviously you want to win one of the races this year. But one of my two final questions is, if we're looking at the 2015 season, the rewound back, and you got to pick whatever track that you wanted to be your first victory, whatever track that might be, which track would you pick if you had your way to decide which track was the track you would win on for the first time?
I'd have to say, it's tough because, I've been racing at Phoenix so long. I wanted to have run at Phoenix. However, that was my first Xfinity race ever, so I knew that was pretty much out of the question. But I'd have to say Road America, which is my next race. I've watched many races on TV at Road America, and I was very excited to be able to put that one on my schedule. And it just so happens that it's my second road course of the year, and it's going to be in a week and a half. So I'm definitely circling Road America on my calendar.
And my final question is, growing up, what driver did you idolize? And it don't have to be a NASCAR driver. It could be an Indy driver or any series out there. But what was that one driver that you idolized? That one driver, if you could be, you would have been?
Oh, man, like an old school driver that I really always kind of thought was, he was the man. He was pretty cool. It was Tim Richmond. Seemed like he just was out there to live life to the fullest. And he was a hell of a race car driver also. I just remember seeing him on his boat and, with all the girls and winning races. I just thought he was the man. But then also, like a newer driver, even though he didn't find really success in four wheels, but he did in two wheels, was Ricky Carmichael. I grew up watching Ricky Carmichael ride dirt bikes and win all of his championships, and I'd go to all the West Coast races in Supercross, and I really thought he was the man. And when he got the opportunity to go race trucks, I thought that was the coolest thing. And even though he never won any races in the truck series, it kind of sparked my interest in getting into four wheels.
Ms. Lee said that was too funny. That was so funny. Speaking of Tim Richmond, Steve Billmeyer, which was Tim Richmond's crew chief, he is a host on our network on Thursday nights with Racing with Big Sweat. So I know he's going to get a big kick out of that answer when he catches the show later on. But definitely love Tim Richmond in the day, and definitely he led a lifestyle that I could see a lot of people would have loved to have the opportunity. Maybe not like the results, but would have loved to have the opportunity to have this lifestyle. So I like that answer. Definitely do. Dylan, I want to, first of all, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to have you on the show and get to know you on a more personal level, and and as well in your racing career. Definitely want to wish you good luck at Road America here in a week and a half. Definitely want to wish you luck on the rest of this season and moving forward, and hopefully you guys get the sponsorship and get a full ride for 2016. We would love to have the opportunity to have you back on maybe at the end of the year just to see how year one was for you in the Xfinity Series, and see if any plans are etched in stone for the 2016 season, or as you get closer to the season, the 2016 season, either way. But we would love to have you come back. Is there anybody that you want to say hey to real quick? Any sponsorship, anything you want to throw out there real quick before we get you out of here?
Yeah, first off, I want to thank you again for having me on the show, and I look forward to talking to you down the road, and hopefully I'll have some big news in a few months on my 2016 plans. But I really want to thank everyone in my corner. Like I said, the Townley family for giving me the opportunity to race for them. Chris Knight, who's doing a lot of my PR work this year, he set up this interview and many more. I have to really thank him for everything that he's doing for me, and then also have to thank my parents for giving me this opportunity to kind of go live out my dream. And then obviously all my sponsors, Zaxby's, Bell Helmets, GoPro, D Racing Enterprise. Have to thank all of them for also giving me the opportunity to go race.
Well, Dylan, once again, thank you for coming on. Good luck with the rest of the season, and we'll definitely be talking to you again soon.
All righty, I look forward to it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Have a great night. That was Dylan Lupton, Xfinity Series race car driver, great talent. Just finished ninth last week in Mid-Ohio. Definitely would be looking forward to seeing him at Road America here in a week and a half. He just added one more person in his corner of support. I have a lot of respect for athletes in general. I have a lot of respect even more for race car drivers. They were showing inside the 13-car Casey Mears car before he had issues or went out of the race. I can't remember what happened to Casey Mears, but at that point in time, which was still early in the race, they were at 152 or 154 degrees inside the car. You imagine sitting inside a car for 2-3 hours with a fire suit on, everything that they got to wear, helmets, no AC, 154 degrees in that car, and you got people out there that are ignorant as hell, such as Donovan McNabb, that says race car drivers are not athletes. Beyond me. But I even have more respect when you have these athletes that make time. You got, and we've seen this quite commonly, and I see you in there, Patrick. I'm gonna get you in there. We see this commonly a lot of times. I don't know how many times that Miss Lee has ran into this, but I know that I've ran into it a few times. Basically, if you ain't got the numbers as ESPN, Fox, NBC Sports, we don't have time for you. I gain a lot of respect when you have drivers that make the time and athletes that make the time to come on the show. He's in the Xfinity Series. He's just one step away from the Sprint Cup Series. You had Sarah Cornette Ching come on, who's up there in the series as well. I had a 30-minute conversation with Darrell Wallace, Bubba Wallace. And I probably could have went longer than that. I was just trying to stay within the time frame that it was set up for. But I'm sitting there in the Kentucky Speedway out there in the parking lot with a phone interview, and and I didn't say his number. I could have had his personal number. I mean, I all these people. I leave all that information with Miss Lee. I don't retain none of this information when it comes to pro. It's just amazing how these athletes are and the time they give and everything else, and it is really cool. And I, tend to support and get into the corner of those that give us our time. We try to make a point to help share. And I know we're not the ESPNs and we ain't got the millions and millions of followers, listeners, and everything else, not yet anyway. But, every last fan that you gain, every last bit of support, when you especially when you're still working your way through the series or the college ranks or whatever the case, it is always good. And so, I know that's not why they do it. They do it to do it. I mean, for all they know, we could have nobody listen. It could have been a three-way conversation. But they do it anyway. And obviously it's not, but it is what it is. And I have a lot more respect for the athletes that give us their time and do what they do because of what it means to us in our show and our network and everything else. So definitely we'll be watching for Dylan Lupton at Road America. I'm definitely going to get connected with him on Twitter. Like I said, I was already friends with him on Facebook. I was blown away that we were already friends. I didn't know it. So I thought that was interesting. But we're going to switch gears. We got NFL to talk about. So we got some interesting things. I kind of ranted and raved a little bit earlier, or yesterday, a little bit about the Eli Manning. Talked a little bit about the Tom Brady. Not that there's really much to talk about. I just think it's ridiculous. Here we are in 2015, and this is still the topic. 6 months removed from the Super Bowl. It's almost 6.5 months. But it is what it is. Make sure you guys check out our articles over at www.the110nationsports.com. Also, to keep up with what's going on with the company, all you got to do is go over to the110nation.com. Make sure you follow us on Facebook. You can check my fan page out, Mr. CJ Sports. You can check out the site side and the sports side of the house of 110 Nation Sports, and the radio side and the guest side of the house, 110 Nation Sports Radio. But without any further delay, we were going to bring this man back last night, so we had technical difficulties. I'm glad we've made it halfway through the show, and we have not had a technical difficulty so far. So a lot of what we were going to talk about yesterday, we are going to talk about tonight. We had him on last week. We get the honor to have him back again this week. Patrick, how are you doing tonight?
Good, man. How are you doing?
I am not doing too bad. I can't complain. When I have the guests that I get to have on tonight, between an Xfinity Series driver, my NFL expert, and then following up with an NHL expert, it don't get no easier than this. It don't get no better than this. And so
good, man.
I'm glad to be able to sit down and talk some football now, change gears a little bit. One of the headlines before I came on the air last night, and is still carrying a lot of weight, that we're going to jump into first, is Eli Manning and the fact that he wants to be the highest paid football player. I am curious to get your input on how you feel about him possibly being labeled the highest paid player in the NFL, and even more, your personal opinions about Eli Manning in general, period.
Sure. So Eli reports come out not too long after, Phillip Rivers finally inks his extension. Rivers got 4 years, $65 million guaranteed, put him in, the top 4 paid quarterbacks in the game. First thing, I think Eli, it's a tumultuous topic for one. He's coming in the city of New York, where the lights shine the brightest. But let's think about something here. He's been 8-3 in the postseason, 2 Super Bowls, 2 Super Bowl MVPs. In 7 of the 11 games he played in the playoffs, the New York Giants were underdogs. So if quarterbacks are great enough Super Bowls, Manning's really proved his worth there. So does he deserve it? It kind of pains me to say it, but yeah, he does. But the question I have is why? Why does he want to be the highest paid player? He's getting to the point in his career. He's 34 years old. 2013 was a rough year for him. They had a lot of injuries. Got to him into the pocket. The offensive line was bad. So why does he want that? Why wouldn't he sacrifice a little salary, to help build around him? One, is it ego? Maybe ego has a little bit to do with it. But I look further than that. I see Andrew Luck in the horizon is going to be due for probably the richest contract in NFL history come next year. And agents and players, they're on the same team. You have the owners and the teams, and then you have the players and the agents. The teams, you saw some possible collusion with Dez Bryant, Demaryius Thomas. The agents talk, just as much as anybody does. So Tom Condon represents Eli Manning and his brother Peyton. Condon negotiated about $1.2 billion in NFL contracts. Eli was the highest paid quarterback in 2009, and he delivered a Super Bowl in 2011. So he earned his money. He didn't get a big contract and fade away. But it's a random report out there, and I think really what's happening is I think the agent's floating it out there that he wants to get to the market before Luck gets his deal. Since 2009, you've seen contracts rise about 8% annually. Rivers getting about $22 million, Wilson $22 million, Rodgers still the highest paid quarterback. Take that 8% annual, Luck's going to be due about $25 million, but even more so with his capability of growing as a player, I think he's going to get about $30 million a year. So Tom Condon knows if he doesn't get a deal done this year, Eli's going to have Luck over his head and then everybody below him. So right now is the time. And I think, they have the leverage of the franchise tag, which that would pay Eli $25 million a year. I think Eli will get his deal.
and I think he will be, top two. I think he could come in above Wilson but below Rodgers. But I wouldn't read too much into it. I think it's just a report floated out there for leverage. You saw it with Des Bryant's deal. Tom Condon, he represented Bryant. He's not any stranger to the game. So I think it's more just noise to help the leverage process and try to close the gap a little bit.
Now, this is where I have issues. One, he's a 59% passer. So, essentially, about 1 every 2 passes is going to be incomplete. He only has 5 more touchdowns than he has interceptions and fumbles in his career. He's only in like an 82-point-something quarterback rating. Yes, he happened to be on 2 Super Bowl winning teams. I credit more of that to the defense and a wide receiver that bailed him out with that miraculous catch, Tyree or whoever. Where I also have the issue is there is no doubt in my mind that the veterans plagued the NFL. Yes, I agree that the rookies were being paid ridiculous amount. I think the Sam Bradford contract was icing on the cake of ridiculous money given to rookies that have never done anything in the league. Yes, I agree that they needed to switch that around or adjust that so they didn't get paid so much. But, and I think the quarterbacks knew this going into this. But essentially what happened is they flipped the script, and now that money has to be spent, and now that you don't have these ridiculous rookie contracts, now we're starting to see these ridiculous veteran contracts. Yes, I understand that veterans should be paid, and they should get paid a good amount. But the amounts that we are seeing, now and the ridiculous amount of contracts is kind of started happening since that CBA. I think the veterans knew, hey, look, these rookies shouldn't get paid this, but we're going to keep this on the hush-hush. But what's going to happen is now we're about to get these fat paychecks that nobody's ever seen before. And so we started seeing that with the Peyton Mannings and the Aaron Rodgers and the Kaepernick at one point in time got himself wealthy check. There, I already said Aaron Rodgers. Joe Flacco, now Cam Newton, and then Russell Wilson. Now we're going to see Eli Manning, and then, of course, I mentioned we're going to see Andrew Luck. And the quarterbacks knew this because there's not enough talented quarterbacks in the NFL. We have a bunch of teams out there that have quarterbacks that shouldn't even be starting quarterbacks. So right. Eli Manning essentially has got the Giants by the balls at this point. Either you pay me more than anybody else has been paid and screw the fact that now I'm going to suck up a bunch of my salary and we're not going to win Super Bowls because you ain't going to be able to afford to put a whole team together, or you let me walk and there's nobody out there for you to get. So either we're coming to a point that the Giants are going to have to hope on a young rookie or a player out of the draft, or hope that there's a young quarterback that's been released that has talent and they can develop, or you keep Eli Manning, or you get a veteran and you're sucking. Essentially, the ball is in Eli Manning's court, and it's really, he's got the Giants by the balls. It's going to be tough. I wouldn't even call Eli Manning elite. I'm sorry, and this got brought up right after he won the first Super Bowl. He won the Super Bowl. He's now elite. No, there's a lot of quarterbacks, Brad Johnson, and I can't think of the quarterback off the top of my head, that have won Super Bowls that were nowhere being elite, or nowhere being elite. And there's players out there that have been on 2 Super Bowl winning teams that we still do not classify elite. So I don't care that Eli Manning was a quarterback. I don't care that he has won 2 Super Bowls or was on 2 Super Bowl winning teams. I still don't use the word elite with Eli Manning. I know that I'm going to have a serious issue saying that Eli Manning is the highest paid player in the NFL.
Yeah, you got a great point. He's not elite. I think he's a second-tier quarterback. I think you take Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. I as the 1-2 punch, as the two best quarterbacks in the league. Peyton has fallen off. It'll be interesting to see how he bounces back. But if you look at the 5 highest paid quarterbacks in the league right now, you have Aaron Rodgers, number 1, then Russell Wilson, who I don't think Russell Wilson's elite. I think he's on a great team. I think he has the intangibles, proving he can win a Super Bowl. Big Ben comes in at 3, Roethlisberger. He's proven he can win Super Bowls. He's proven he can. I still want to put him up there with, Brady or Rodgers. If he's on a not very strong team, I don't think Big Ben could carry him into, contention. I think he's a good quarterback, still not elite. Phillip Rivers, Phillip Rivers is kind of the flip side of Eli Manning. Roethlisberger, Rivers, Manning all came out of the same draft class in 2004. Eli has the 2 rings. Big Ben obviously has the ring. But Rivers, whose numbers look better than both of them, doesn't have a ring. So in terms of perception, we can have it one way where we look at the numbers and say, oh, this guy gets it done, but he hasn't won a Super Bowl. Or you put, in Manning's case, his numbers aren't quite as good, but he does have the 2 Super Bowls. So just thinking from leverage, and if I'm the agent, I'm pointing those things out. Look at who's getting paid the most money. Cam Newton's number 5, Colin Kaepernick's number 6. Colin Kaepernick and Cam Newton are far from elite. I think they're middle of the road. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I think the one thing, too, that people really tend to forget is the grass is always greener on the other side, with quarterbacks especially. Good quarterback leaves the team, and then they're scrambling. You look at any team that's had a good quarterback leave, other than the Colts, who had, the luck of finding luck, let's say, after Manning left. There's some downtime. You realize how good it is to have somebody, and then when they're gone, not so much. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I think Manning will get paid. They'll use the leverage to get it done. But it's interesting, especially with Manning having that horrible year in 13, where he threw more interceptions than touchdowns. But I think he's proven he can do it, and if you put him around with a pretty solid core, they need to work on that offensive line, and if Coughlin stays, I think they can contend, without a doubt.
I think they definitely contend. Right now, Washington, you don't know what RG3 you're going to get. In Philadelphia, you don't even know who's still going to be on the team. I think the only thing you're kind of sure of is Dallas. You got Tony Romo and Dez Bryant, and that seems to be a pretty deadly combination. And depending how the running game shows up, it kind of dictates how that offense is going to go.
Right.
So you got uncertainties out there in the East. So it's just as likely for the Giants to come out and take that division as anybody else. We entered the preseason, and I was talking a little bit earlier. Preseason to me is like pulling teeth. I love the NFL. I love watching football. I am not a fan of watching 4 games that mean absolutely nothing, and where I'm going to see the actual starting lineup maybe play 2 full quarters out of 16 quarters. But we do have the football back. We do get to see some highlights or some glimpse that the season's about to start. What did you think of week 1, and what are some of the key things that you want to focus in on over the next 10 minutes about week 1 of the preseason?
Yeah, 2 things that matter in the preseason. Winning jobs, they got position battles, and staying healthy. You want to eliminate any injuries. No injuries is perfect preseason, and I think any coach's mind. But it also gives the fans an insight to see the rookies and all the hype surrounding them. Mariota, Winston, everybody wanted to see how they'd come out. Both stellar college careers, but they both proved they were rookies coming out in week 1 in the preseason. Winston, obviously number 1 pick out of Florida State, quickly realized it wasn't the ACC. He struggled. He was nervous, it looked like. He fumbled the snap, missed some receivers. Did have some pressure in his face early, but I like the pocket poise he showed. Hit Vincent Jackson on a 4-yard strike down the seam, where you saw that strong arm. You could see the poise, and he gained some momentum there. Ended up having a nice touchdown around the end. Mariota, who all this hype in the off season about how he hasn't thrown an interception all training camp, comes out and he looks just real bad. first 2 series I had an interception, but later he kind of regrouped, led him to a touchdown drive. So it's nice to see the 2 rookies, finally put their pro uniform on and get going. A few things, too. Buffalo has a quarterback battle going on. You got Matt Castle, E.J. Manuel, who was drafted in the top 12 of the draft 2 years ago, and then guy out of Virginia Tech, Tyrod Taylor, who looked really, really strong. And I think he has risen as a dark horse to win that job. He looked good, had a nice 20-yard touchdown strike that was actually dropped, but showed some good plays there. Buffalo's a team that has so much talent around it. If they could just get a guy that doesn't screw everything up, they could be legitimate playoff contenders. Brady, with his suspension looming, Jimmy Garoppolo got the start. He pretty much played the whole game, 20 of 30, 159 yards. But he was missing passes. Coming out of Eastern Illinois, I thought he was one of the top quarterbacks in that draft. I thought he was great value. Gets drafted by the Patriots in a perfect system, so we'll finally get to see him in the regular season. But I thought he really was just off. Other than that, preseason football is just hard to watch, man. It really is. Notable injuries. Yep, go ahead.
I would say another big name, and I know it's something you want to talk about, but another big name that we got to see back on the field, and we'll see how long this stint lasts, but Tim Tebow, and I saw they got the standing ovation. He had the first series, he looked really good, and then things just kind of fell back into the old Tim Tebow ways after that.
Tebow, the first thing I noticed about Tebow, he came back, he hadn't played football in 2 years. So for him to come back, I thought he really had adjusted his release. It was quick out of his hand. He didn't have that slow wind-up. And in Chip Kelly's offense, it's extremely important to get the ball out of your hand quickly. So notice, improvement right away there. Got to remember he is playing with third stringers. So guys catching the ball, guys running routes, it's tough. And Kelly even pointed that out in his post-game press conference. That, he is third stringers, but really for the most part, I thought he did well. And like I said, I think he'll continue to grow. It's a guy that is going to go in and work hard, look at the tape, continue to grow. He'll be there early and he'll be there late in the practice room. So I think Tebow, showed some flashes of some improvement. But it really comes down to his ability on the goal line, and that touchdown run he had proved that he's valuable there in Chip Kelly's offense.
What is your opinion on Tim Tebow? I don't know. I have a lot of the players in the NFL I wouldn't want my son to idolize. Tim Tebow, to me, would be one of them. One of those players that would sacrifice anything for his team, for the better of the team. He will stand there and be your third-string quarterback and hold a clipboard if that's what you want him to do. But we've seen him also take over a Denver team, watch a team rally around him, and treat him as the true captain and play at a different level because of his leadership. I know there's a lot of side distractions with it, and we've seen that when he got on the field. You would act like you would have thought he was the second coming of Joe Montana or something. But at the same time, how can you, with all the garbage we have in the league, how can you not want somebody that is positive, that is willing to do anything, work hard, and be a positive influence on the rest of your team and young players? How could you not want that, though?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. His attitude's great. I'll be honest, just on a personal opinion, when he came out of Florida, I couldn't stand him. I couldn't stand how he played the game. I thought he was too much hoorah, Remember that press conference that he had after they lost to Ole Miss in college? He's crying, and I didn't like him from a fan's perspective. I respected him. So he gets drafted high, and I can't believe he's getting drafted in the first round. So there was some animosity. I think I didn't like the way he played the game. I didn't think at the time that he was cut out for the pro level. He was a great college quarterback. I always compared him. He's the Tyler Hansborough of college football. Great college player, but he gets into the NBA and he just, he doesn't fit. Tebow gets to the NFL, doesn't match up. But for a third-string quarterback who's a situational player on a team at this point in his career, yeah, I think he's valuable. The problem comes when you start analyzing the depth chart, I mean, in the Eagles' case, they have Matt Barkley, who they spent, a relatively high pick on. I think it was the third or fourth round. They took him a couple of years ago. Barkley, heading into his senior season at USC, was talked about to be, a number one pick. So comparatively, Tebow doesn't have the arm strength to be that everyday quarterback. But as far as the locker room presence, especially like you said, all the garbage in the NFL, I think there's a place for him, and I think Kelly will find a place for him, especially with the situational situations that he can provide.
Now, on the fan side of it, I didn't like him either. I'm a Buckeye, so I don't like the
I don't know.
I don't
either. So I don't know, and I'm over it now. He's a good underdog story, so I'm kind of rooting for him, and we need more people like him in the NFL, where little guys can look up to somebody that's not breaking the law or not getting into trouble. He's a great example, and I hope he makes the team. I'm rooting for him. And I think he will.
We got two more topics, and we got 2 minutes, so we got to make both of these quick. I want to get into.
Okay.
Bears Kevin White is out. What does this mean for the Bears? Obviously, this was a very high draft pick for them. And does this deflate the air out of Jay Cutler? You lose Brandon Marshall in the offseason. Now you lose what you thought was going to be your new number one receiver. Jay Cutler's been in the spotlight and the turmoil on what the Bears should do with him and them redoing the contract and how unhappy people are. One, what does this do for the Bears? And two, does this kind of let a little bit of the air out of Jay Cutler and what he was hoping this season would be like?
Kevin White, I think the one thing I took away from that situation was that the fact that White suffered this injury at the start of training camp. There was questions asked directly to White, to the GM of the Chicago Bears. Is this a serious injury? No, he's day-to-day. About a week prior to the news coming out that he had the stress fracture, White and Ryan Pace, the Bears GM, were asked specifically, does he have a stress fracture? No, he does not. A week later it comes out, he does have a stress fracture. So I think it was totally mishandled by Bears management, where trust is lacking in a city that's a high pressurized. It's a little New York. I mean, you're always in the spotlight. So you're adding that where you have a new GM, a new coach, and now everybody really doesn't know what to believe. Cutler, I mean, it's tough to say. He's on his way out. I think he knows that his contract's so big that they couldn't do anything with it. I just think the way it went down, the dishonesty that the general management showed with the injury was very weird. It definitely only puts more pressure on Cutler. And second to that, Alshon Jeffrey, the Bears starter wide receiver, has been walking around in a boot for the last week and a half, and it's supposed to be day-to-day, but who knows? So it'd be interesting to find out what happens to the Bears. I think it's just a mess in Chicago.
Philip Rivers gets the 4-year extension. I want to believe I heard $80 million. I've had a couple people talk to me today. Couldn't believe the amount of money that they offered. I don't have a problem with the money he was offered. I think Philip Rivers is a good quality quarterback. I think him and Norv Turner not getting along. I think them not having a complete team at different times has really prevented him from going all the way. I think that they've had their opportunities. And then, one thing on the way, a couple seasons ago, I think it was a couple seasons ago, I don't think it was last season, had a lot of interceptions. He went through his, downtime where he just couldn't hit his teammates for nothing. But when it's all said and done, I think Philip Rivers has had a pretty positive, a pretty productive year, or a pretty productive career. And, I honestly, top 10 quarterback at this point in time, still in the NFL. Honestly, if we sat down and broke down who would he put in our top 10, I think that I would put Phil Rivers in my top 10. I don't have an issue with it. I think he's deserving the money. I'm kind of surprised because they're still in discussion whether or not that's one of the teams going to L.A., and he's been vocal about he didn't want to go to L.A. So I thought, honestly, we wouldn't hear about a contract until they decided who was playing in L.A., but I don't have an issue with it. I kind of like it. I think he is one of the key pieces and cornerstones of that San Diego Chargers team still. And until they find an upcoming quarterback, that's what you got. And I don't think you're going to replace him with anybody that's in the league right now and got the same production out of them for anything less. So I like it.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on it?
I like it too. I mean, Rivers really, he's a hell of a quarterback. He's a competitor. He's a good guy off the field. If they do want to move to L.A., they have a face of the franchise to take them there. They're finally getting better on the other side of the ball. Melvin Gordon was drafted out of Wisconsin. He'll help take some pressure off. You can finally have a workhorse running back. I think the only thing standing between him and the Hall of Fame is the Super Bowl. I think he's that good. If he doesn't win one, I don't think he gets in. But if the Chargers can put it together and get there and win it, I think he gets into the Hall. So I think it's good on both ends. You're not going to find. It's like I said, kind of like Eli Manning. It's going to be tough to find somebody to replace him, and he's proven he can get you there. Rivers actually has second most playoff appearances of any quarterback without winning a Super Bowl. I think he's been to the playoff 8 times in his career. Some really good seasons there with Schottenheimer. They finally got it going on the other side of the ball. He's capable of doing the job if they can put it together. So it's money well spent. If they stay in San Diego, they have a face of the franchise that San Diego knows and San Diego likes. They move to L.A., they have a quarterback that's got to keep them competitive and keep people in the stands and happy with how the team's doing.
Most definitely agree. We got through most of the list, or at least farther in the list than we did last week. So I'm definitely. It's amazing how quick the 30 minutes goes by. Before you know it, it's over and done with. And I was sitting there saying the same thing when I had Dylan on the show. And it's different to have a guest that does one time and you're trying to get to know this person and versus us and we're doing this week after week and show a couple times a week that there's a ton of topics and so it just amazes me how quick it goes by. For those that joined the show late, this is Patrick Taylor. He's our NFL expert. He will be joining us on Monday nights at 10:30 and Tuesday nights at 10 o'clock. To recap the NFL for the week and get us ready for the upcoming week. I think once the regular season starts, we need to put in part of our show the predictions for the upcoming week, pending any injuries we won't know about by Tuesday. But we definitely got to do that as well. But as always, it has been fun. It has been a pleasure. Thank you for calling in and. Do you have a way that people can follow you or social media or anything you want to throw out there?
So about 36 hours from now, my website, lineblower.com, will be going live. Everything we talk about here will be posted. It's a sports blog with an emphasis on pop culture and a perspective of the Las Vegas odds and the matchups and how that plays out. So lineblower.com. Follow me on Twitter. It's line_blower, and any questions anybody has, be happy to handle. But thanks again for having me on, man, and I will talk to you next week.
Most definitely, and I apologize. I missed you at the very beginning, and I knew that earlier, and
you're good.
Next time, make sure Miss Lee's one reason I even said anything. She sent a message, and I forgot we had a whole discussion last week about the line blowers. So yes,
no problem.
I'll make sure I write that down so I don't forget to get that out at the beginning of the show
you're
next
good.
time. Thanks again for calling in, and definitely look forward to seeing what Week 2 brings for the NFL in the preseason, and looking forward to seeing what you want to talk about.
All right, man. Thanks again.
Yep, have a good night.
You too, buddy.
That was Patrick Taylor, our NFL expert. Like I said, Monday night at 10:30, we'll be following Steve Billmeyer, and then Tuesday night, in between our guest and Izzo for the NHL. He will be joining us every week. Very excited about that. Love to be able to have somebody talk some NFL about this now that the NFL season has hit full force. I know that we got family of Izzo listening, and I do apologize for not making it out this weekend, as that was the reason why I had to stop the whole bouncing thing. Is Shorty, her ex moved to Myrtle, so we have the kids 24/7, and so My weekend life consists of going to work and coming straight home to babysit the kids and watch the kids and work on the 110 stuff. That's what I do every Friday, Saturday, and now. Except the Saturday night, I think the plans are we got babysitter, and since we didn't get the pass we wanted for Bristol, they offered us a cold pass, which would mean we would have had to leave the pit area when the race started, and so it would kind of been pointless to drive all that time to have to leave when the race started. We're going to make a trip up to Greensboro and check out Bowman Gray Stadium. On average, I think they have like 15,000 people on a local regular Saturday night. Kind of put that in perspective, I think the two local tracks here might have 1,000 or two at most. So they call it a madhouse for a reason. Next weekend happens to be, the Saturday happens to be the last week that they will be having races for the season, as they have their track on the outside of a football field. So when a football season coming around, they got to cut the season short, so their season is a little bit shorter than most seasons. So we're making a point. We're going to pack up and leave. We get off and get home about 3:15. We're going to shower, change, and pack everybody up, drop all the kids off, and make our way out there so we could make sure we get a seat, because I'm assuming last week of the season, I know that they sell out as it is. I can only imagine what it's going to be like next Saturday night. So we're going to go out there to Bowman Gray Stadium and check that out for the first time. But without any further delay, we got Izzo in the house. We're going to talk about the Central Division in the NHL. Been looking forward to this all week long. Izzo, how are you doing tonight?
I am doing pretty well, Jay, and we do miss you. I unfortunately had to take over there for a little bit, so yeah, and it was a pretty interesting weekend, but all was well and no one was hurt, and that's all that matters. But now we're here to talk some hockey with my fellow puckheads who are tuning in tonight. And yes, we are talking about the Central Division. This is another wild and crazy division. It's going to be hard to pick a winner in this one, especially with 4 teams last year breaking the 100-point barrier for the season, that being the Blues, who had the most at 109, and the Wild, who had the least at 100. So this division right off the get-go is one crazy stir pot of concoction like it's none other right now. A lot of competition in this division this week, or in this year. So forgive me. A couple things that I'm a little bit worried about in this division, teams that are kind of on the watch for me because I expect a little better, are the Colorado Avalanche right now, losing Paul Stastny a couple seasons ago to the Blues, and this year trading away Rylan O'Reilly, and only really having Gabriel Landeskog, and not really a lot of backup there. Goaltending with Semyon Varlamov, if he can keep his head straight with his off-ice issues, and Patrick Waugh being Patrick Waugh behind the bench. We all remember the good old Patrick Waugh days. Very, very, very gifted goaltender. One of the best in the league ever to ever play the position. Makes a very good coach. Did very well in the minors. So I'm expecting a lot out of Colorado, and right now it's a dark day for them right now. And then following close behind them are still the Chicago Blackhawks right now, with the cap issue and the off-ice issue with Patrick Kane right now. Hopefully all turns out well for him. If you haven't heard, he's alleged in some sort of sexual abuse after leaving a bar, pending an investigation right now. So there hasn't really been any word. Media's been kind of hush-hush on it right now. There's only been tad bits. So the Blackhawks right now have a nice storm cloud over them as well. Hopefully they can manage the storm and get through it all together. The Jets are another team that are probably on the rise. Surprisingly enough, shocked a lot of people and actually made the playoffs last year. Didn't do fairly well. Kind of held their own. Are on the uprise. It's going to be an interesting season for them. I still have questions for them in their goal department right now. Goals were really getting by their goaltenders. Andrei Pavlik, he's a great goaltender, very agile. Would like to see him play a little bit better. Has a great supporting cast in defense with Dustin Byfuglien and other guys like Tyler Myers is another good defenseman. Jacob Trouba. These are all guys that have been brought in by Winnipeg to try and bring an old tradition back from when it was back in the team back in the old days and everything. So I'm really looking to see a lot of things out of Winnipeg this year. Got a lot of good goal scoring that comes from all ends of the ice, and got a pretty good group of young guys, all highlighted by Andrew Ladd, who we all know played for the Blackhawks and won a cup for the Blackhawks back in 2010. Was definitely a great veteran guy. He's definitely going to point that ship in the right direction, and hopefully we will see maybe possibly a Stanley Cup. I do see them making the playoffs this year, Jay, and I can really see them as a dangerous team, definitely a sleeper team. So the other 4 teams that are on top of this division better hold their own against Winnipeg this year, because if not, they're going to rise up in them standings pretty quickly and in a hurry too.
Now, not to backtrack, but when you were talking about the Blackhawks, I was looking over this and I see that their prospect, Philip Denault, has surgery and is going to be out for 4 months. How big of a hit or how much of a delay on his progress is this going to be, not only for him in his injury, but for the Chicago Blackhawks?
Well, good thing for them. He is a young guy, so I mean, hip surgery for hockey players, it's equivalent to like knee surgery for a football player. It's going to take time to heal and everything like that. Mm-hmm. He'll more than likely end up, starting, small, playing in a few minor league games to try and get his skating back and get his legs underneath him. But before that, he's going to go through, physical therapy and everything, on and off ice training. Once he's cleared to skate, he'll probably go through some non-contact drills and everything like that, just to get a feel for the ice again. This kid's got some bright future. He might end up in Rockford Ice Hogs team. He might be at Chicago's AHL affiliate. It's kind of hard to pick where these guys are going to go. Usually, they get a couple shots at the playoff game or at the preseason games, and then they'll play a couple weeks. First part of the season, because hey, let's face it, there's 82 games in a season, and a couple of first, let the kid play a first couple, see how he does. If he's good, keep him. If not, ship him down and make him develop a little bit more, which is not unheard of. A lot of teams practice this method, and sometimes it works out. Sometimes these guys are just trade bait. It's very mysterious how these young players get dealt around nowadays. So very interesting.
Now, also, you talked about this division had 400-point teams. How common is it to have for the not so diehard fan, the casual fan such as myself? I'm kind of curious, how common is it to have 4 teams, and has there been more teams to reach 100 points? Back in the early 90s, you had a lot of teams that were, getting up into the 115, 120-point areas and everything like that. And you'd probably maybe have 1 or 2 other teams. But nowadays, with this division, it kind of rivals the Metropolitan Division in the East. There's a lot of potential for each, the top 4 teams from last season to go over 100 points this season. So, with this division, you could have 4 playoff teams, and 2 of them or all of them might be playing each other in the first round, depending on how seeding goes. There's only a couple teams in the Pacific that would probably make a run, but that's another topic for next week. But with this division, the Central Division, just the teams that are in it. With the Blues, with Vladimir Tarasenko, Brian Elliott, and David Backes, Kevin Shattenkirk. The Predators got a healthy Pekka Rinne. They signed Mike Ribeiro and James Neal the year before, and they had phenomenal seasons last year going into the playoffs, eventually losing to the Blackhawks. You got the Blackhawks. They've won, 3 Stanley Cups in the last 6 years. They're the force in that division right now. They got the targets on their back. Minnesota Wild with, Mikko Koivu, Zach Parise, Ryan Suter, and now with the signing of Devin Dubnyk at the trade deadline and him getting his extension to stay in Minnesota, Minnesota's definitely going to be a dangerous team. There's a couple 20, 30 goal scorers on Minnesota's roster, and you get 2-3 guys, and
20, 30 goal area, that's a lot of goals. That's going to be a lot of W's for you in the long run and stacking up a lot of points. The Jets and the Stars, the Jets just, they came in with 99 points last year, just 1 point shy of breaking 100. So, they could have had 5 teams last year with, 100 points for the season, which is very unheard of. You never see 5 teams from one division, going to a postseason or anything like that. So this division is very top-heavy right now, and it's going to be hard to pick a winner out of the Central Division next year. That's for certain. That is definitely for certain. The only teams that really go ahead.
I was saying it definitely sounds like it, especially as competitive as this division was last year. And Winnipeg was only 1 point from being the 5th team with 100 points in this division. It definitely sounds like this is definitely. It might not be the top of the top, as you talked about how impressed you are with the Metropolitan and the Atlantic Division, but obviously the competitiveness within this division definitely makes this a must-watch division, obviously, and will definitely make things interesting to watch for next year.
Oh, it's definitely going to be a wild ride in the Midwest next year. That's for sure. Even with Dallas, with the Dallas Stars, Jamie Benn winning the Art Ross Trophy last year, leading scorer of the league. You have Jason Spezza. Now you've signed Patrick Sharp. You still have Alex Hemsky and Cody Eakin, Alex Goligoski on the back end, and then you've signed Antti Niemi off the Sharks, and you still have Kari Lehtinen. It's going to be Dallas is definitely going to be another team that's going to try and want to get in that mix. I think that's going to probably take them 95 to 98, maybe 99 points just to maybe get into the playoffs, especially with the teams that are floating around there right now. Dallas is definitely on the rise. They definitely have a huge mountain to climb because, like I said, you're playing those division rivals all season long. Sometimes, you got games that are spread out and everything like that. You got to make sure you win against your division rivals because that's what's definitely in a 5-team pool for a playoff bid. That's definitely the way to secure a playoff spot is definitely beating your division rivals and everything like that. So looking to see Dallas maybe possibly make some noise. Definitely a wild card team. I can definitely see Dallas maybe possibly sneaking in and, possibly disrupting somebody's chances to get into playoffs. So it's going to be definitely something to watch in Dallas. I'm pretty sure Dallas fans are excited as we speak, with football going on, and then a couple of weeks later, hockey season kicks in. Pretty good following Dallas right now. So it's they are definitely proud of their hockey team and with the moves that they've made this offseason, securing more, veteran leadership in Patrick Sharp and signing Antti Niemi off the Sharks, they've definitely made a bid to try and make a definite deep run in the playoffs. So we will see. Like I said, it's going to be hard to pick, a winner in this division, Jay. It's you could have these 4 or 5 teams could possibly be on top in the first place spot in the Central at least a few different times. You could have a few different lead changes here and there. It's definitely going to be a tight race. It was definitely a tight race at the end of the year last year. We all know, especially with our good buddy Toby paying attention to the Blackhawks and Predators games. We all know how that ended, unfortunately. It was definitely an entertaining night. But like I said, it's definitely going to be a hard pick for the Central Division, especially with all these teams that are in there right now. They definitely have the deepest pool, definitely have a good shot of possibly sending a team, to the Stanley Cup. Chicago's done it 3 times in the last 6 years, so that you can't count them out, especially with Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane right now. Like I said, they still have a lot of work to do with their cap issues. There's still a significant amount over the cap and haven't really made any moves yet they still have Marcus Kruger to possibly get back on contract. He's still waiting to hear from them right now. Haven't really heard anything else yet, but he is getting some tempting offers from other teams out west. So I'm going to have to definitely pay attention to that because Chicago, I feel, can't afford losing anybody else, especially with the departure of Brandon Saad and Johnny Oduya, and they're still over the cap right now, so it's definitely going to be a long haul and you only have 4 or 5 weeks left before training camp starts, so you definitely got to come up with a plan. Stan Bowman is an excellent GM in Chicago. He knows what he's doing. Son of Scotty Bowman, legendary coach, all those Stanley Cup victories all over the place, especially in Detroit and Pittsburgh. So definitely the kid has hockey sense, and he knows what he's doing. Hopefully he just gets the ball going here pretty shortly, because like I said, the season's right around the corner, and pretty soon it'll be game time. So hopefully good things will come out of Chicago again. We all know they won the Stanley Cup this past year, and everybody else wants to see them do it again. Chicago's a proud franchise, one of the original 6. Definitely a lot of history there. So it's going to be an interesting year for the Blackhawks. So hopefully everything works out well for them for the beginning of the season. Hopefully Patrick Kane can lace up the old boots and hit the ice with his teammates and possibly make another run.
Another thing that impresses me about this division, and when you start throwing the overtime losses into the actual loss column, even your worst team was only 39-43, just 4 games below 500 for your worst team, and to me that's impressive. Dallas, you throw those overtime losses in with their losses, they finished at 500, so the 16th down. You're still a 500 team, and you look at the other divisions, they didn't fare so well. I mean, you look at Los Angeles is only the 14 down in the Pacific, and they're below 500. So that's one of those things that kind of stick out to me, that kind of impresses me about looking at this division, was how good these teams were in retrospect to the record, because you don't get when you watch other sports. I mean, we watched the Carolina Panthers in the football go to the playoffs and weren't even a 500 team. We watched the same thing with the not the Miami Bucks, but the 2 teams or the team below them. I can't think off the top of my head. They were both Brooklyn Nets and someone else. Were both below 500 and made the playoffs. But you got this whole division that's just short of everybody being above 500, and to me, it's impressive hockey.
Yeah, it is. Like I said, definitely something to see. And like you said, I mean, looking at the LA Kings, they 95 points, and they had a losing record, So it's definitely like I said, it's definitely a top heavy division. Like I said, the Jets can hang with those 4, with the Blues, the Predators, and the Blackhawks and the Wild. I do believe they can hang with them. They've been on the rise for the past couple seasons, have really done well for themselves since returning to Winnipeg. Colorado's the only one I see that's going to have a really, has the biggest hill to climb, especially with all their departures and, the subpar play that they're getting in Colorado right now. The Stars, hey, signing Patrick Sharp and Johnny Oduya from the Blackhawks, and you still have the Jamie Benn and his brother Jordan Benn. They're tearing it up down there. Kari Lehtinen and Antti Niemi are 2 start at number 1 goalies. They could start, anywhere they wanted to, but they're going to be sharing rink time throughout the season, which is sort of really highly unheard of. You don't really see 2 number 1 goalies, sharing a lot of time together. Last time that really happened was maybe Corey Schneider and Roberto Luongo up in Vancouver, and we all know how that worked out. So, like I said, Avalanche have the biggest hill to climb right now. The Stars and the Jets, are going to believe, or they're going to make some noise. Do I see the Stars possibly getting in? I don't know. Aging roster, somewhat of a good group of young core guys. Veteran leadership, though, is pretty, is getting up there in age and everything, especially with Patrick Sharp, being a 40-year-old guy, playing in a new town, for the first time. So it's definitely which Patrick Sharp are they going to get? Are they going to get the good veteran leadership, the quality sniper guy, or are they going to get, an aging guy who's past his prime and, just wants to keep playing until, it's time to hang him up? So there are a lot of big questions around that. Definitely shored up on the defensive end with Johnny Oduya. Johnny Oduya is a defensive defenseman, blocks shots, smart play, great breakout pass ability. Can definitely play a definite lockdown D guy. Just really sacrifices the body just to make the great defensive plays that he makes. So it's good to see that Dallas has a good shirt-up defenseman with a guy like Travis Moen, who's another guy like that, but can also put the puck in the net. So with the Jets and the Stars, they do have a legitimate shot of making the playoffs as possibly wild cards. Depending on how the Blackhawks fare, they could be in some real doom with all this turmoil right now. They could possibly falter. I don't really like St. Louis winning that division with the exit of T.J. Oshie and not really being shored up in the goaltending position right now with Brian Elliott in net with with everything that's going on right there. Excuse me. So, I mean, the Wild really stick out to me this year. The Winnipeg, like I said, is definitely on the rise. And the Predators, I do believe will make the playoffs again. Like I said, I think it's going to be an all-out battle between Winnipeg and Chicago this coming year. And it's going to be definitely something to want to watch and want to tune in for, especially during the later parts of the season right before the trade deadline. These games can get pretty heated and pretty ugly pretty fast. There's a lot of big guys in the West right now, especially in that Central Division, that you just do not want to run into towards the latter end of the season trying to make the playoffs.
Now, I got one more just general hockey question, and it's not even the Central Division. It's kind of a spin-off of the Hall of Fame game. I think every sport has got their signature thing that kind of puts them different in other sports. The Hall of Fame game is kind of the NFL's way of celebrating the Hall of Fame and really kicking off the preseason. In NASCAR, you got the Daytona 500. It is the biggest race of the year, even though it's the first race. And even the Xfinity Series, the Truck Series, now going to Eldora, and the trucks being on dirt is kind of their signature thing. Every sport's kind of got their signature thing, and I want to say I know the name of it, but I don't want to sound like an idiot, so I'm going to have you tell me the name of it. But I know the NHL has got the one game where they play outside, and what is that actual game called?
Well, there's a couple of them now, but the one that you're referring to is the Winter Classic, which happens on New Year's Day. And then now they're doing the Stadium Series, and I do know there's another one, but I don't remember it off the top of my head. There's going to be an alumni game between Detroit and Colorado. All the old greats from back in the mid to late 90s era when Colorado first broke into the league are going to be playing this game. So you'll see like Peter Forsberg and Joe Sakic, and you'll see Stevie Yzerman and Nick Lindstrom, possibly Chris Osgood. They do a bunch of them now. The first one ever really wasn't called the Winter Classic. It was just an outdoor game between Pittsburgh and Buffalo up in Buffalo all those years back. I do remember how that one was. I do remember watching that game and watching Pittsburgh winning. I do believe in a shootout, if I remember correctly. But now, since it's gained so much interest and everything for something to do on New Year's Day, because there's really not going a lot in the sports world on New Year's Day. Mm-hmm. We all remember the classic game of Detroit in the Big House a couple seasons ago. With they set a new record in the Big House with like 114,000 somewhere around that to watch a mm-hmm. hockey game, which was pretty impressive too. It's just it's a great way to remember why you played the game, because most everybody that played started off in a pond, especially back in the old days when ice rinks weren't, really a commodity like they are today. So, I mean, most of these guys, that's how I started playing old Jake's pond back behind his house, a couple 100 yards behind his house. That's where I learned how to ice skate and everything. I had a guy behind me hacking me at my shins. It's dead cold at night up in, northwestern Pennsylvania. It's colder and cold. and you're all bundled up. You got your hockey stick, your gloves, and your skates, and you got this guy hacking you, trying to teach you how to skate at 2 o'clock, 12, midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning. It was a good thing. It was good. It was fun. You didn't really think about anything else other than just skating around at night. Breathing heavy and seeing the steam from your breath and everything. It's definitely something us hockey players that definitely get. It's a deep tradition. It's old school hockey. Essentially, it's just how it started. And it's definitely, a tradition that you'd never want to forget. And, the Winter Classic is an excellent way to pay homage to that old tradition. So I enjoy watching the Winter Classic. I don't care who's playing. It could be Philly, it could be Boston, it could be anybody. I'll still watch, because it's so cool just to play hockey outside in the dead middle of winter, on a pond and everything out in the middle of nowhere. So it's definitely a sacred art. It's definitely a big pastime tradition with the older generation of hockey players, and it's just a good way to have fun in the long run. It's just something amazing to watch at night.
So I'm assuming that the popularity of the Winter Classic ain't so much to do with it being New Year's, but more the fact that the fans embrace the tradition, the meaning behind the game, and just the fact that is that sports kind of game that is different than any other thing and draws attention because of that fact.
Oh, definitely. I mean, there's going to be a game up in Minnesota, up in the Gophers Stadium. It's going to be between the alumni of the Dallas Stars kind of / Minnesota Wild and old school Chicago Blackhawks guys. And definitely that is something Toby wants to definitely go to that game, and I told him I would go to that game and I would rock a North Stars jersey. That would be very cool to see. They've already released the jerseys for that game, as a matter of fact, and I don't think Toby's going to like the Blackhawks one too much. It's definitely fun. You go out, watch the boys, go out and make fools of themselves out on a sheet of ice on a pond that's, you don't know how much ice is, underneath you, and you really don't care, just hanging out, having a good old time, drink a beer or two, sit by the fire and just watch the boys play ice hockey all night. It's definitely something I miss doing, especially when I was a kid. There was nothing more better than saying, hey, get up, we're going to go play ice hockey. And you're like, yeah, I just went to bed a couple hours ago, let's go. And you're all excited and everything like that. So it's definitely something everybody should try at least once. If you don't play, just watch. See if you guys are somewhere where there's snow or ice, watch a pond hockey game. It's watch a group of kids play pond hockey. It's kind of mesmerizing. You kind of find yourself lost in the moment there for a little bit, and it's definitely a surreal thing. And I'm kind of glad that the NHL is expanded on this Winter Classic. They definitely make a lot of profit off of it. NBC does an excellent job with the coverage, with the charades and everything, all the flair, before and during the game and everything like that, So they're definitely doing it the right way and definitely going in the right direction with it. I mean, it's pretty cool to see that, they turn Yankee Stadium into a hockey rink. You can't turn, you can't turn the Garden into a hockey rink or a baseball field, or, you can't turn Heinz Field into, you turn Heinz Field into an ice rink. You know what I'm saying? You've watched, where Ben Roethlisberger and Jerome Bettis used to run football. Here you got Sidney Crosby dancing around somebody. So it's definitely cool to see, these big stadiums, being down to, have an ice rink plop right down in the middle of their field and let a bunch of grown men just beat the living hell out of each other and play a game of pond hockey, essentially. So it's definitely a tradition. I'm glad it's around, and I hope it sticks around for a long time.
Well, Izzo, I definitely want to thank you for coming on tonight. As always, you're very informative. Definitely looking forward to hitting the last division next week as we're getting closer and closer to the NHL season. So definitely excited about that. I'm sure that we will stay in contact throughout the week, but as always, before we jump off the air here, I'm going to give you an opportunity to shout out to everybody you want to shout out to real quick.
Well, family back home, I'm glad you guys came down. It's pretty cool. Miss you guys, love you guys, can't wait to see you. All you guys paying attention up north, definitely the guys on Bragg. I know Brad, he's over in Germany right now, so I wish him well. Be safe for that month, buddy. Come home. We'll drink a beer, buddy. Other than that, Jay, miss you, buddy. Love doing the show. Definitely going to have to hang out during the college football season a little bit and watch some Ohio State games. I will tolerate it. I will tolerate it because you are a Big Ten fan. On that note, buddy, have a good night. 110 Nation all the way.
Yes, sir. You have a good night. That was Izzo, our NHL expert. I tell you what, between Dylan Lupton, Patrick Taylor, and Izzo joining us tonight, this show has gone by so quick, and it has been so fun. I am besides myself, and this is why Tuesday night is our number one night on this network. It is the place to be. It's the night to be here at the 110 Nation. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank everybody who's been in the chat room hanging out. I want to thank everybody who's listened to the show. I want to thank the support of everybody. Miss Lee, I want to thank you for all the great stuff you did up in Mid-Ohio representing the 110 Nation, doing the article about your sit-down with Ben Rhodes. It was a great read and a great opportunity to kind of get an opportunity to kind of put myself in your shoes and know what it was like to sit there and get the responses of what we wanted to hear and what we wanted to know. So thank you for that. Hope you guys had a blast with that. Don't forget, tomorrow night we will be back at it once again. Looking forward to another 3 great nights of shows as we got the 110 Nation Sports Show tomorrow night at 9 o'clock, Racing with Big Sweat at 9 o'clock Thursday, and Flyball Fridays at 10:30, so make sure you guys tune in for that. Make sure you guys check out our articles over at www.the110nationsports.com. Also check out our company site over at www.the110nation.com. Follow us, like us, all those wonderful things. Until tomorrow night, you guys have a great night, and we'll talk to you guys then.